Meanwhile, James, as you know, fallout continues over President Trump's explosive allegations against former President Barack Obama. In a series of tweets on Saturday morning, President Trump accused his predecessor of wiretapping telephones at Trump Tower during the 2016 campaign. The president has yet to offer proof, but is calling on Congress to further investigate this. A spokesman for the former president is denying the claims, saying Mr. Obama never ordered surveillance against any U.S. citizen, while FBI Director James Comey is calling on the Justice Department to publicly denounce any such efforts. All right, James, so what is the reaction in Washington to these claims? I watched all the Sunday talk shows. It looked as if it was very, very difficult for people tied to the administration, spokespeople, to defend it, many of them not wanting to tie even their own names to it.
Yeah, Vlad, no one would defend it, frankly. Not even the president's closest Republican allies, nor the president's deputy press secretary, who said if these things are happening, there should be an investigation. And that's really telling. Trump did this without consulting with his aides. They expected Saturday to be really quiet. Then all of a sudden, before dawn, he tweeted 6 times, accusing Barack Obama of the biggest political conspiracy since Watergate. What I think is really interesting is all the Sunday shows were about this. And I can tell you from a White House official, Donald Trump was very, very happy that the conversation this weekend was all about whether or not Barack Obama ordered wiretapping against Trump, because that meant that we weren't talking about what Jeff Sessions did, which was recuse himself because he made false statements before Congress about his meetings with the Russians. Trump very angry about all of that coverage, and he felt very, very good that his gambit was able to change the subject, that he got us off of Sessions and on to this wiretapping business, which, as you note, totally unsubstantiated. There's no evidence, categorical denials from Barack Obama and James Clapper, who is the head of basically all of intelligence under Obama. I think Trump feels like he got the better of us on this one, but let me tell you something. I also think that it's going to come back to backfire badly on him. I think it's going to embolden Congress to continue investigating. He's antagonized the FBI director, who wanted to come out publicly this weekend and basically repudiate what Trump had said. He's keeping Russia in the news. I think Trump really thinks he kind of was clever, but he might have been too clever. And ultimately, this is going to hurt him. In some ways, he's also like the boy who cried wolf now, because every time he comes out and makes a big claim like this, and it turns out to be false later on, he loses more credibility. And when he is going to need us to trust him, he's going to have depleted that reservoir of goodwill.
And to that point, James, I'm reminded of the unfounded allegations made about illegals voting in the last election. The president made that assertion. He called on Congress to investigate. I haven't heard much about that investigation. And despite numerous Republican congressmen saying that they don't see any evidence to support these claims that former President Obama had a wiretap on folks in Trump Tower, do you still expect the Congress to investigate the accusation?
Well, this is totally part of a pattern. Yeah, I think congressional Republicans are fatigued by having to defend Trump over and over on stuff like this. I do think it'll come as part of the ongoing congressional investigation into Russian interference. The problem, though, for the White House is that a couple weeks ago, Reince Priebus, the White House chief of staff, went to the FBI and he asked them to try and kill stories about the active FBI investigation into Russian interference in the election. They would not. And so Priebus then went to the Republican chairman of the House and Senate Intelligence Committees, and he had them basically act as surrogates to defend Trump, to defend the White House position, to say that there wasn't evidence of all this different stuff that actually had happened. And as a result, a lot of people here in Washington, Vlad, don't trust the House and Senate Intelligence Committees anymore. The fact that Trump yesterday asked for the House and Senate committees to look into his specious claim, and that these chairmen who are in charge of the investigation have basically been carrying water for him, makes a lot of serious people, including Republicans, doubt that the congressional investigations can be independent enough to be trusted. And that's why there are emerging calls, including among some Republicans, for an independent investigation, maybe even a special prosecutor, to look into these very serious allegations. that the president has made, but that have also been made against the president.
James, before we move on to another topic, I just want to ask you briefly to explain to our viewers, because the president's assertions that the former president ordered these wiretaps, if a president of the United States wanted to do something like that, how difficult would it be? And could, for example, the FBI choose to conduct some kind of operation like that without the president's approval?
The rules are incredibly complex. There are a lot of safeguards to prevent people like Donald Trump or Barack Obama from being able to go after their political opponents and order wiretaps. It would have to be approved by a judge, the FISA court. And in order to get approved by a judge, there would have to be probable cause that a crime was being committed. If, as Trump said, if it was the situation he laid out, it would have to be that there was reasonable suspicion, probable cause, that there was a foreign agent working in Trump Tower or with the Trump organization, which would be very, very serious. So in that way, I mentioned earlier, Trump's claims could come back to haunt him. We're hearing from James Clapper and others, there wasn't a FISA warrant, but if there was, that would mean that the government believed that there was illegal activity happening in or around the Trump organization, which would be very, very damaging for this president.
All right, let's move on to the Affordable Care Act. Our Nancy Cordes is reporting that Republicans are expected to unveil an ACA replacement plan this week. What can you tell us about that?
We're expecting it very soon, and this is frankly something where Republicans are divided. Conservatives say we got elected promising to repeal Obamacare. Let's get moving, but it's really hard. You're talking about 1/5 of the economy. And there are moderates who are very worried that all of a sudden they're going to own this health care law. There's a lot of Republican governors who are concerned that they expanded Medicaid and they're going to get left holding the bag by this new plan. Everyone sort of likes a lot of the popular provisions in the law. The question is, how do you pay for them? And that's the big question we haven't gotten an answer from Republicans, is how are you going to pay to cover people with pre-existing conditions, things like that. And that's why, as Nancy mentioned, we're going to get this bill soon, and the devil is in the details. We're very, very interested to see the details.
You are absolutely right about that. Lots of questions still to be answered. James Hohmann from the Washington Post, as always, we thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Vlad.